Hey everyone, welcome to the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. This week we have another Sony Santa Monica person. We have Raul Ernesto, Senior Environment Artist. Man, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
I have to say, cool hat. Very nice hat. I've seen a few of them hovering around.
Oh yeah, man. Danny Carlone made it for me. I decided to wear it as a thank you for him.
Dude, I owe him a
Yeah.
thank you too. He helped kind of make this happen a little bit, put me on your radar. And Danny's just an amazing human being anyway. I think the whole game industry loves Danny. Danny's just a good guy.
Yeah, that is awesome.
But we're talking about you today. So I want to leapfrog straight into something. I know you've listened to the Nate Stevens podcast. One of the best bits of information to come from that for both myself and all of the listeners, they all got in touch and let me know they really liked this, was the whole notion that Sony Santa Monica environment artists are generalists. For you as an artist, who actually lives this work lifestyle, what's some of the pros, what's some of the cons? Like, what do you love about that workflow? Is there anything that's frustrating? Like, I wanted to start exploring it in more detail because it's very interesting to me.
Oh yeah, man. I love that. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I work there. It's just very cool to be able to own and work with designers and just do everything yourself. You know, it's definitely not for everybody because it is a lot of stuff to handle.
Yeah,
Sometimes the work becomes very overwhelming because you have to figure out gameplay. It's not. Sometimes, like when we hire junior people, they come in all ready to rock, because they're very good sculptors. They awesome texture artists, but it's not about making the best sculpts or making the best texture. It's about making games,
mm,
right? So it's very important to understand metrics, to understand that this many meters, like a door should be this wide, and then like the anchor point should be up high here, like 8 meters tall.
yeah,
A lot of game artists get so frustrated with that because they want to make art and then they feel limited, because when you're playing games, you have to be able to read things to know that you have to go through like the old school Zelda games. You knew that you could break a wall because it looked very different from the other walls, and then you just knew that if you put a bomb there, it will blow up. So God of War games, I feel like do that very well. Like they're very good at guiding you and telling you where to go. Like it's everything's a rail. Like Dark Souls games are very different because it's all over the place. But God of War games are always like it's you're in a path and then the collision's smooth and you never get stuck in anything and you always you know where to go. Right.
yeah. I mean, it's something that I was watching the No Mon talk and the concept artist gave about how you had these big, beautiful, artistic concept art where like these big, like flat terrains of very like nice composition and stuff, and it turned out for gameplay it sucked. Like it looked great as a piece of concept art, but running across the terrain for 3 minutes straight off this flat terrain is not that's it's not that fun. And I noticed, when Danny mentioned that last week, it's like at first it's like because I'm in that boat a little bit. I'm starting to like get better at it. I still catch myself from time to time being like, man, screw you, design, man. I want to make this really nice, cool looking thing. And it's like, yeah, but it's a game, and like I'm having to still catch myself from doing that. I fall into that hole very regularly. Um, but back to the generalist stuff though. Do you find like because I've always think about you guys are a huge ZBrush studio, like it's been said over and over and over again. You guys are very heavy into ZBrush. Does the generalist stuff side of the workflow help you get a break? I guess because I guess you could be sculpting rocks for all day, or like wood, or anything, or terrain. Does the fact that you're able to just jump into a completely different area of environment art help with keeping momentum for your work? Like, how does that? How do you find that particular side of it?
The sculpting part.
Just like jumping around between different disciplines as an environment artist and as a generalist is
Oh,
like,
I
does it keep
see.
it fresh?
Well, I don't think of it like that.
Okay.
Um, to me, again, it goes back to a gameplay thing. Like I know what I need to make, so I usually spend more time than anything on the block out,
Hmm.
working with design to make sure that things are good. And then the rest of it is just, it's just second nature. Like once I get to a point where everything looks nice, then people go, man, we're already spent like 50 days on this thing. And when they blink, everything's like pretty and awesome because the sculpture is like easy. So in ways, it's funny because I am very fast at making stuff, but it might not look like it because I do, instead of making one area, I literally would make 10 different variations of it
Hmm.
until I'm happy with it. And then I go and sculpt stuff. And the sculpting part to me is a bonus because it's like, okay, I already spent like 20 days working on this thing and the designers like it. And now it's time to make it pretty, right? So after that point, I've done all the problem solving that needs to be done. And now I've gotten everybody off my back and I'm just having fun making pretty stuff, right?
Right,
And I
right.
think that's how I approach it. It's not like necessarily like, oh, my favorite thing is doing the sculpt. Because I've had to sculpt stuff that I really don't want to do. But it's not because I don't want to do it. It's just because I feel like everything's hard no matter what it is. Because you could spend like 5 minutes sculpting, and use brushes and stuff. But like if you don't actually do it well, like it's not going to look like it belongs in that environment.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I always put a lot of love into the sculpting because it's just because I've been doing this for a long time doesn't mean that it's already gonna look good. So I always make sure that things look like they live in that environment. Because I always see artists. One thing I've noticed is that all rocks always look the same, and that drives me crazy because not all environments are the same.
Hmm.
If you make a volcanic rock, why are you making sharp rock? Like it should be, it should be a mix of the two, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're making wood, what is this wood for? Like, is it on a dock? Is it inside of a cabin? If it has it been furnished? People put epoxy on it? Like, you need to know what this thing look like in real life. You don't just go and use the same combo of sculpting brushes every time you make stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, yeah, sculpting and texturing, both to me, they go hand in hand together, right? So, but it all turns back around to what they look like in the level because I could spend 2 days sculpting this sweet thing and it might be this small and you don't even see it, right? So it's happened. It's happened to me. It used to happen to me a lot when I was younger, right? I would spend a lot of time and then put it in the level and then no one sees it. It's like, why do I even bother doing this thing, right?
Is that because you? But do you think that gets better because you said yourself you spent a lot of time with design, like you really get this worked out before you start diving into doing all that, making it beautiful. I guess that initial process of working closely with design to know exactly the purpose of this thing and what it needs to be, I guess it helps make sure you're not doing that, right? Like if you design like, look, this is off in a corner somewhere. Like, do not spend 4 weeks making this look like the best a hero asset. You're like, oh, cool, because you did your due diligence of talking to design and communicating. You know the kind of boundaries of where you need to go. If they're like, oh no, this is going to be like the main path, and then leads into a cutscene, and then leads into a key combat encounter, it's like, oh, okay, I need to really spend my time on this. So do you think because your communication with design, it sounds like you have a really good relationship with them? Do you think that helps you avoid doing that? Making something amazing that gets stuck in a corner and hidden away. That's Do
Oh
you think
yeah,
that's avoided by
yeah,
talking to your designers?
yeah, definitely. During this current project, I've been very fortunate to work with some very, very good designers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we literally work hand on hand together. Like they don't move anything without asking me first, and I do the same thing. So we both develop a huge amount of respect for each other because we realize how well we complement each other, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship I never had in any other project. Like I had this in the previous God of War, but not as much as I do in this project.
So you're working with
And
one dude, like one dude, you and him are just like you're tackling
yeah,
something together. Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
And it's so cool, dude, because he's also very artistically driven to do stuff
Mhm.
because he likes doing all this modding stuff on this side for Half Life or
Nice.
sorry, Counter Strike. And he's always like, "Hey, what if we do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this." And then we pretty much come up with themes. So maybe this corner at one point when he was figuring it out, it was just a corner, and then it became a loading dock, and then we based off that we assemble an entire puzzle based off just that idea, right? It's not just like, "Hey, look, we have this thing and we're just gonna throw it in there," and then we kind of hack it together, which is what most games do. And instead we kind of come up with themes and we keep repeating those themes throughout, and it's a very cool way to work, honestly.
How often are you guys talking to each other? Like, how often is he seeing what you're doing or you're seeing what he's doing? Like, say over a course of a week, how often will you guys have that type of dialogue?
Like every day.
Fuck, that's so good.
Yeah,
I'm
man, we're
jealous of
just like
that.
one message away. But I'm also very lucky because he's very cool to work with. So I don't know what everybody else's relationship is with their designer. I hope it's as good as mine.
What
um
do what for two guys though who you get along that well and you have a really good healthy working relationship? Part of having a healthy working relationship is having healthy disagreements. So what sort of stuff have do you guys? Is it a case of one of you have an idea and like the other's like I don't think it works? Like what does a disagreement, a healthy disagreement, look like between an artist and a designer who are on the same wavelength?
um a disagreement would be that you decide do not follow metrics. So the rule is that all hallways everywhere, all paths should be at least 4 meters wide because we use meters,
Yeah,
and that's great for me because I'm foreign, so meters all the way, right?
yeah,
So
metric system all the way,
yeah,
European.
yeah, yeah. I don't understand feet. Sorry, guys. So like, yeah, all hallways should be 4 meters because it has to support puppet cradles and Atreus, right? So if you start narrowing it down like this, it might be okay if there's no combat, right? But if there is combat, then I know for sure that at some point someone's gonna message me going, "Yeah, so this one corner, we need you to widen it again." So that creates problems, right? Because if you have foliage and rocks and stuff and all these things on there, you have to move it out of the way.
Mhm.
So I take this approach where I do the opposite. Instead of like building the path, I just like make more stuff on the side. And that also opens a can of worms because then it's like, "Hey, that one area was way cool. Can we explore that area?" And I'm like, "No, you can't." Right. But agreements, and they just happen a lot. But again, it depends on the person. Usually, what happens is this guy spent a couple of months figuring out the flow of the
Yeah.
level, and they give you like what they call design sheet, which is
Uh-huh.
just like cylinders and cubes, um, and it's just like bare bone. And
Mhm.
you're not supposed to just stick to it because sometimes people give you a hallway that is like you know like a cube, like a rectangle,
Yeah.
and sometimes people literally verbatim stick to like that. When I see that, I just see like a world of opportunities. You know, I imagine all the cheapies in my head and all the cool sculpting I could make and all the cool shit that I can put in there. And so it's up to you what you do. But obviously, before you get that far, because that's like the icing of everything, you
Yeah.
have to do something called an R sheet. And
Okay.
what you do is they give you that rectangle, and now it's up to you to make an actual path. If it's a hallway, then you make an actual hallway, and then that's where you figure out your kit, right? So with just nothing but Maya geometry and a gray material, nothing else, because there's no need for nothing else. You just go and build your little kits of stuff, and then you start coming up with, uh, you start solving all the problems of the visual composition of the level,
Mhm.
and you also start creating kits so that way you have a better idea of what to do and who's gonna make it and whatever, right?
So, for example, if there was just for argument's sake, say there's like a bridge, you wouldn't just make this crazy big grey block out bridge. you try and make it in a way which you'd plan to actually make it in production. So rather than just like this whole piece of just one object being the bridge, you'd be like, okay, I would actually make this. Okay, modular kit set. Okay, I probably need like railings. I need floor
Yeah.
tiles. I need trim. You will block out in that nature. You won't just go straight into this big object, which then needs to then be figured out. You'll figure it out as you
So
block out.
when I do art sheet, I like get a little bit extra detail in there so that I
Mhm.
can show it to the art director so that everybody is on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Because later maybe I put in like a little trim in there with just like a couple of um like I don't know, screws or something, right? But when I do my blockouts are very detailed, so like people can kind of see what I'm trying to do and not
Mhm.
guess that, especially if there's hard surfacing involved. Usually, the stuff I'm making is already kind of getting ready to just take it into ZBrush and be finished,
Mhm.
right? So our engine supports a lot of polygons and stuff, so I'm never afraid to do any, like actually show all the stuff in our sheet. So if my level has statues, what I would do is I would make, a pillar and then stuff, and then I would actually make a kit, right? So then I would say, okay, this is my modular kit, and then I'll actually populate the environment with this because later when I'm done doing all the hard stuff, all I gotta do is focus, isolate all those things, and then just one to one, just go and make each of those things individually. And then from then on, I kind of figure out how much sculpting I need to do, right?
So it's just tackling it in like really healthy passes. Then it's like rather than take one thing to final and then like figure out what to do with it later, you kind of go, okay, we got like your design sheet. Okay, now we're gonna do like the art sheet. Okay, blocked out the compositions. Okay, how are we actually gonna make this
Yeah,
composition with these 6 pieces? Okay, cool. Let's actually I just made this a little bit more detailed. Make sure we're going down the right path. Okay, this is definitely the right path. Now scooped up them 6 pieces at the same time. So I know that's something I made as an amateur error. I made a lot when I was younger. Was I'd start a scene and I'd like have literally 4 walls on a room, and I'm already final texturing like props. Like I've not even figured out tilables. I've not figured out composition. I've not figured out what assets I need. I've just start making things to final, and it's like
yeah,
I got burnt out so quick doing that because you run into errors. I haven't thought things through properly. Like that process of actually tackling things in passes, alpha pass, beta pass, um, all of these sorts of things. I think it helps you. What's the word? It helps you maintain a vision, I guess. And I sound so pretentious. I sound like a really pretentious artist, but helps you maintain a vision. It's like, okay, I have an idea in my mind. Okay, does this idea still work? Yes. Okay, I blocked it out a bit further. Does this idea still work? No, that particular thing isn't working anymore. All right, I want to go in and tweak
yeah,
that now. And I'm guessing that's what it looks like for you. You're constantly exploring the vision and you're finding problems as you go along at each stage rather than right at the end.
yeah. So what's cool though is that when we're doing our sheeting, so it's funny we have the question of the chicken and the egg when it comes to concept art because
Okay.
which one comes first, right? And most people don't know if the art sheet came first,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we give that art sheet to a concept artist, and then they go and make it insanely more amazing than I could
Mm,
ever like hope to make it, right? Just because I feel like it's because, well, for one is that they have fresh eyes on it,
mm-hmm.
and two, I'm already tired by the time I give it to them, so they go from that point to to like skyrocket with it. And then sometimes though, before we do the levels, before we even start, they do high vision
Yeah.
concepts of things. And then just from so it's kind of like we always checking each other and making sure that we stay on track. No one's no one's ever nudging like the little thing. Everybody's always making sure that everything together it's great. You know.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really stood out to me. Again, I'm referencing when I spoke with Nate, was the whole when I saw my photo scans, and he said for that particular thing he didn't like photo scans because consistency is if you photo scan one asset, that asset has a certain textual density that's going to be completely different to everything else. And everything you're talking about now, again, it comes back to that word consistency. Like it's not one area is at this crazy different level of detail or size or composition. Everything sort of moves at the same pace in a consistent fashion, and then you end up with this very cohesive vision at the end. Again, I'm throwing around words like the most pretentious art words ever. Cohesive vision. That's when it belongs in a bloody Netflix documentary or something. Um, but so we've spoken about generalist stuff, right? I'm here. I mean, you pretend I'm like a brand new artist. I want to work in the games industry, and I hear this. And you need to be generous. It's just a scary thought. Like a lot of my mentees I speak to, I'm always having to rein them back in. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to start this personal project, and I've never touched designer. I've never made a material. I've never used ZBrush. I've never used Unreal Engine. I'm going to learn all of this at once." And I'm always like, "Okay, hold on, hold on. You need to tackle like one of these things on a project, learn
Yeah,
it,
I
and
understand.
move on." So I'm like I said, I'm a new artist, and I hear, okay, being a generalist, cool. What would your advice be then? Like, I'm talking to you, and I'm saying, okay, you want me to be a generalist? Cool. What do you want to see from me? What can I do to develop my over a course of say you have a year? I had a year or 2 years. What sort of projects and things should I be looking at to hit them points that you'd be looking for?
Um, so, well, I want to mention that I was teaching at the Norman workshop at the Norman school for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I taught the same class that Nate Stevens teaches, the environment
Nice.
class. And it's a 10-week course. Well, it's 11 weeks, but I expect them to be done in 10 weeks. And I always thought that was a very short amount of time because most
Okay.
of those kids, they don't know everything that they need to know to be able to finish this environment. And I always feel bad for them because they just get overwhelmed. And you can see on their faces that every time I show them this new program, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, how many more stuff do we have to use?" Right? And I always tell them as much as you need. So
Yeah.
like what I always tell people though is that great art takes time, you know, but learning things that takes less time. So to be able to produce amazing work, you just have to keep trying and trying and trying until one day it just kind of happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like automatic mode. Like it just happens and you don't even know you're doing it. It just looks great, but that's after you sculpt like a 50 million pieces of something, right? So I always tell students that one to have small goals, right? So people always ask me, "Oh, what kind of portfolio should I have?" And then I always say, "Well, that depends. What do you want to do, right?" I feel like doing environment corners is a great thing to do because it kind of allows you to touch every little thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of figure out which one you like the most. For those kids who want to do character art, I always tell them, well, you could make statues and make a cool facade, right? And at first they're like, "Oh no, that's dumb," but then next thing I know, they made like cool 50 statues, and then they like that because they see them all like in one place, and they don't have to be as detailed as a full character, and they like how much stuff they're making, right? And then that evolves into making little trims, into wanting to
Yeah.
use substance to be able to like procedurally texture these things, and I'm like, "See, I told you this is fun, right?" So I don't know, man. I feel like sometimes people have a mentality, so I always tell people to leave that at the door and then to come in. But Sony, I have people that work under me, and I've trained several people, right? So when they first come in, they obviously, like anyone else would, working at Sony Santa Monica for the first time, they come in hungry and ready to kick ass. And I always had to like stop them right on their tracks, like flat down, face against the wall, like stop, because there's no point in being fast if you're not making good stuff, and there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely no point in making things if someone else is gonna have to clean them up later, right? So I always tell people to ease down on that, right? So when people come in, I have a whole like system of how I ease them in because sometimes they don't know Houdini, sometimes they don't know ZBrush like I do. So I just kind of like give them a little test in here, and then as we go along, I I show them stuff, right? Or at Sunny, all the senior guys, and the senior staff guys are really really knowledgeable, and they're all nice people. There's almost no ego bumping there, you know. Um, and anyone is available at any time as long as you go up to them in a very nice manner and say hello. Like they will
Yeah,
probably
nice.
talk to you for hours if you actually approach them, and then I think the mistake most kids do is that they're afraid of that one old dude over there who's been there for years, right? Because from far away he's like very intimidating, but little do they know that he's like the coolest sweet guy ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think that as a generalist, you just have to be open and just know from the get go that things take time, right? And then after that is up to you how much love you want to put into something and making sure that things look good.
Do you? Does I? This might be my like. I've not been in the industry long enough to see this in like AA or AAA game development so far. I haven't really felt ego bumping from anyone mid and above. From a sense of like, because I think there's a healthy amount of competitiveness within people themselves. Like to be artists and to be good in your field, you have to be competitive, but in like healthy competition within yourself. Like I'm a hyper competitive person, but with myself, I'm not like looking to people to the side of me and going, "Oh shit, he's ahead of me. Oh fuck, I gotta work harder." It's not like that. Like it's kind of a healthy self drive thing, and I think I haven't seen like ego bumping. I haven't seen that like at a mid to like anything above. And I wonder if it's just because as you become more experienced as an artist, you kind of you get it. You quote get it. It's like you're always gonna be learning. You start to learn them basic rules, which okay, I say basic rules that they sound basic, but we still make them. Like design comes first, planning stuff properly. There's no point doing stuff if you're gonna redo it, which guilty of. Like there's been plenty of stuff on this project I'm working on right now where I've kind of rushed to get it done and get it in, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to fucking redo
Yeah.
this now for the second time because I rushed. Is it fair to say with experience, ego goes away? Like in artists, production artists, I'm not like, you know, fucking film directors and shit like that, actors. I'm talking like production artists. Like as you get more experience, does ego go away? Is that a fair statement?
What goes away?
Ego, that whole ego thing, like ego bumping and stuff like that, that goes away, right?
Mm, no, I
Okay.
don't think it does, and I don't think it does because it depends on the environment, on your work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because some places are more toxic than others,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna say names
Yeah,
or
of course.
places or anything, but like I know people who work at very very bad places and their attitude is shit, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I'm sorry for the language, but it's
Dude,
just
I've been
true.
swearing the whole time through this. Do not worry.
And
Explain that
then
though.
and
No, no,
then
dive into that. What is
because
a bad
so what
attitude?
happens is I meet a lot of these people at the game dev drink ups,
Yeah.
and I always go in there with my best smile, ready to brawl. Sometimes people think I'm an intern because of how outgoing I am and how nice I am. And then when I slap them on the face later with my senior title, it's like, oh, their tone changes completely, like 360. And then it's like, oh, I didn't realize you were Raul. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. But for me, um, when I was younger, I used to be very hot headed and kind of stubborn. And it took me a while to get out of that mentality because I obviously wanted to do better than that one guy over there, right? Or maybe not better, but equally as good as he was
Mm-hmm.
doing. So I learned that if I had to do that, I had to leave my pride and ego at the door at home, tucked away in a box, put like chains around it, throw in the fucking river. Right? It's true, man. And then then I learned that okay, I want to go up to there and I want to be nice and I want to say stuff. I want to learn from him, so whatever he tells me is the law, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he tells me he does a little dance before he makes a low poly, then I'm obviously have to do a little dance before I do a low poly, man. That's the way it works, right? So I feel like over time you learn to be professional more and more and more.
Mm,
But it really just depends on your environment because you could work at the most toxic place and be the most like professional person. But if you're trying to best your coworkers, which are on your team all the time, and belittle them at every turn that you get, then you're
mm,
doing it wrong. And I don't care who it is, man. I don't care if it's the art director or the director of the game, the boss, the owner, the CEO of the company. Like no one should do that. No
yeah.
one should step on the little people just because, right? So I really think that coming back to what you said, yeah, sure, it goes away, but it really has to do with who's around you because you're really the average of the five person you hang out the most. So if you hang out around cocky assholes all the time, then surprise, right? You're not gonna be the nicest dude, and people are always gonna like diss you. But if you're like the coolest dude, like, and you're open to criticism and you actually listen, not only are you gonna be better artist, but you're gonna grow and you're gonna become better. You're literally gonna be happier, right?
Yeah.
And I see that a lot happen at the school where I teach at Naman. A lot of the kids are very competitive with each other, and I tell them, "What the hell are you guys doing? Don't you know eventually you're gonna have to work together?
Mm.
Like I know you guys don't like each other, and that's why I want to pair you. Now you both make the same environment. You know, you're gonna become best friends. But
It,
yeah, I don't know,
it's a
man.
very
It's
healthy
a
balance, though, right? Because, like, I mean, I know
yeah,
the people you surround, it's someone I've spoken to quite a lot, which is the whole like birds of a feather flock together. Like, hang around with assholes, you become an asshole. And it's very difficult. I think that's a very difficult thing for people to want to accept. I mean, I know early on, like when I was a lot younger, and I wasn't going where I wanted to. I had to sort of kind of look around. Okay, the people around me maybe don't want the same things that I want. They don't want the best for me. And I know the past couple of years, hanging around with a group that I do of very talented artists who are good people. Like if I tell them a bit of good news, they are super happy for me. Like even though we're like all environment artists, there's a couple of weapon and character artists in there as well. But like if I get an opportunity or like something comes up, they don't go, oh well, fuck. Now I need to go find an opportunity for myself. They're just there celebrating with me, saying, yeah, great. So I'm happy that you got this opportunity.
yeah,
Because the competitive side of stuff, like I said, I'm a hybrid competitive person, but I come from team sport. I played professional rugby for like 4 odd years. So I kind of see it as I'm competitive, but I'm competitive for my team, like my group. If I want to see me and my mates, I always want to see them do well. Me and my studio, like even if we disagree, we're on the same team. We all want to make a good game at the
yeah,
end of this. Um, even the industry, even what I kind of this sounds really weird, but like I see the industry as my team. Like I want to see artists get. I mean, even all this NFT stuff I'm seeing recently, I'm like, artists doing well, great. Artists are getting a little bit better, fantastic. Yay, artists. Like I see them as my
yeah,
team. And I want to see them do well. It's a very weird kind of competitiveness. People think of competitiveness, like you said, oh screw that guy, he did well. I need to now one up him. There's different types of it, there's different shades of it. There's healthy competitiveness, there's unhealthy competitiveness. Um, but I still want to come back to actually portfolio. And I guess this links into we're kind of talking about it now with like it leads into kind of social media. But a lot of people treat their social media as a portfolio, as their sort of quote brand. And I mean, I'm on the out of no one cares about what I think. So all that goes onto my Twitter, my Instagram is either street photography or my art or my podcast or sharing cool tools. I don't believe anybody cares what I've had for dinner. I don't believe anyone cares what I think about the next election. I don't think anyone cares about what I think of whatever hot topic. So I kind of treat
yeah,
it as my social media is my again quote brand. And anything like personal stuff, I'll talk to my friends behind closed doors about. Um, how do you feel like about social media? How does this tie into younger artists who want to get themselves out there, get themselves known? Do you think it's a force of power? Do you think it's something that's overrated? Like, where do you stand on social media? And I'll remove ArtStation out of that because ArtStation is in a kind of a weird space. It's half social media, half not, because of all the likes and stuff. So, like, sticking to traditional social media. Useful? Not useful? What do you think?
I think social media is a great tool if you know how to use it properly.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up in the days of MySpace, so
Oh god, there were the
that's
days.
that's a long time ago, right? So so Paul Account started doing these things called weekly recaps, and at that point in time, I was just posting stuff on the forums every day, you know, trying to get better, and I would take everybody would tear me apart until I finally started doing better things.
Hmm.
And I never get angry. I never just rage answer. I never did those things because people remember those things. You know, like if you're
Can I
gonna be
pause you there?
posting,
Can I pause you there? Sorry. Do they?
huh?
Do they remember things? I just want to. I want to
Yeah,
explore that
man,
because I get
they
scared of that as a
remember
kid.
that.
Dude, I grew up and my lecturers always say to me, "Be careful what you say online. People remember. People remember." And I was
So
like, "Do they?"
I don't know, man. Look, man, a long time ago, I read an article about liking versus commenting, right?
Okay.
And it's very interesting because no one remembers you liking stuff unless it's like someone special, you know, like a big dude or like a girl you like or a guy you like. You know,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
one
yeah.
remembers anyone liking anything. But if you go out of your way and say, hey, dude, that looks great," chances are that that's going to echo in their mind for years, you know.
Yeah.
Or if you decide to be rough about it or funny about it, you know, everybody's going to remember that. Like there's this guy, Scott Hummer, for example. He's a good friend of mine. He works at Epic Games. He's
Hmm.
always posting the cool Diorama scenes.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've always commented funny stuff on he stuff, you know, and then you know that's how we became friends. You know, we just when he comes to LA, we hang out, right? But
Yeah.
what if I had been a mean person and just completely trash him? I don't think he would even want to talk to me, right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen that happen. I've seen people who are very loud and vocal on social media show up at the game dev drink ups in person, and they're not
The
either
same person.
vocal or loud. In fact,
Mhm.
they're very quiet people, and I just don't understand that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, my grandpa was a very old fashioned guy, you know, banker dude, you know, and he would always tell me, Raul, if you don't got nothing to say, shut up. And I'd be like, yes, sir. Right. So I take the same approach with social media. And the funny though is that I just got into on Twitter this year. I
Yeah.
mean, last year. And I got on that because Ivana and Danny were bugging me about it.
Hmm.
And I said, "Oh, I guess I'll give it a try." And then what threw me off is the little handle everybody's got. It's got your name, and then it's got like this entire paragraph of your views, something about opinions being your own, which is very
Yeah.
weird for me because I'm always like, "And who else's are they going to be?" Like,
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. I find it very odd. It's like,
you
I
know,
speak for me.
I don't
I'm
get it.
me. My name's Alex Beddoes at the top of that Twitter handle. It's Alex Beddoes speaking. If there's anything else, if it was anyone other than Alex, I'd fucking tell you.
And it goes back to literally opinions are your own, and I just think that is funny, right? But I tell you, dude, that God of War has been very demanding game to work on.
Yeah.
So for the past 5 years, I poured my heart and soul into it, and it paid off, man. Sony has taken great care of me. Everything's amazing. I love LA. You know, it's a very cool place to live and work. If
Hmm.
as long as everything, all the stars line up.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't post stuff on social media as much as I would like to, simply because I put so many hours at work that when I come home, I just want to like mess around. I want to maybe like open up Houdini or learn
Hmm.
Mail or like stuff, which I do. You know, I do a lot of scripting, a lot of technical stuff on the side. I've had that you tagged me the other day actually, and
Yes.
that thing that I did that I posted, I did that thing 5 years ago.
Really?
and it had just been sitting there, and I thought, I guess I'll post this because I don't know what else to do. I wasn't feeling like sculpting anything that night, and I just threw it in there, right? So that was the level that I was at 5 years ago, right? So it's like I feel like good artists when they have a very established brand, um, they treat it exactly like you would a marketing team, right? They schedule things. They say, okay, this day I'm gonna post this, and I want to wait till things quiet down, and I'm gonna come back again, and I want to wait till things quiet down again, and I'm gonna come back again, right? I feel like if you post every day, then you're just gonna be noise. Like, oh look, he just moved that one vertex around. Oh, he just added like this other thing in there. And if you make a significant art post and then you said that you just went to the bathroom or that you're gonna go eat cake, then you just keep bumping, you just keep
Yeah,
bumping and
yeah.
showing up. So I always tell people, man, look, if you're gonna use social media for branding, don't talk about anything else other than the thing that you actually want to sell. You
Yeah.
know, make another Twitter where have your mom and your cousins and your homies, and then post your stuff there, and then make sure that people don't see both sides of you because
It's true.
people remember this thing, man.
That's very
I
true.
personally, with this craziness thing that just happened, the election, American elections, and all that, I saw some nasty stuff on social media, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the sad thing is, some of the people are very close friends of mine who were always super cool with me and never show the, I guess, true color, like people say. But you know, it's what it is, and opinions are their own. And I can't do anything about that. But I would definitely be thinking about that if they ever apply for a job.
And I completely agree. It's very well. I mean, social media, internet in general, brings out the worst in people. It gives them false confidence. Like you said, it's like some of the horrible stuff you see said online. Sometimes, like you said, they come to a drink up, don't say anything. They put on a smile on their face and they sit quietly, and they're not as outspoken. It's very weird. It's a very weird byproduct of social media, but I do agree. I mean, I agree with what you're saying because it's like, I mean, I separate my social media out into different things because, like, my street photography, if I posted that every day on Twitter, it'd get annoying. People would just be like, dude, this guy just spams. So I use Instagram. Instagram's great for that sort of stuff. It's great for just to dump art. And I'm started to keep it solid for my photography. Facebook is like, yeah, I use it to talk to people. That's like in DMs. I don't post there. I have nothing to say. I don't have a lot to say. I do 2 podcasts. Like I speak a lot. Like anything I have to say, I get to talk to great people like you. I don't need to put it on
Yeah.
Twitter to have a bunch of random people tell me that I'm a moron. Like it's just not worth it. Like I'll post whips just because it's fun and I may as well. And that's about as far
Yeah.
as it goes, right? Like I don't want to post like I people wouldn't know I'm married. Like I keep my family off of apart from my dogs. My dogs go on Twitter quite a lot, but they're adorable. Um, but I don't feel the need to post like photos of my family or like my wife or anything like that on social media. Like it's very weird. Like this is my Twitter, especially my Twitter. It's like okay, it's for art, like purely for art. Facebook, I get tagged in by my wife for everything. And actually, that's quite a funny thing that happened. One of my colleagues was like, "Oh, I saw you getting your garden done," and I was like, "How the fuck do you know that?" It's like, "Oh, your wife tagged you on Facebook." I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Like my mum will
Yeah.
ring me and tell me news I'm not aware of yet because it's been on Facebook first to get tagged and everything. I fucking hate that platform. Um, but I do completely
Yeah,
agree.
man.
I do completely agree with everything
Um,
you're saying.
so now, as long as actual portfolio stuff, if you're gonna post stuff, do it in steps. You know,
Mhm.
maybe one day you show off your sweet high sculpt, and then your high poly, right? And then another day you show it off with textures, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever you do, not to fade into and not just to fade into the wind. Just keep posting stuff, man. Whether it goes great or not, because some people are afraid to post stuff. They go, "Oh, that
Yeah.
doesn't look that good." Like, well, if you don't post stuff, how are people going to notice you, right?
Well, I think this just come with like confidence, and confidence comes with experience. I know when I was like much earlier in my career, I overthink everything. It's like, should I do this portfolio piece? Yeah, but what if it doesn't show these two exact skills that I want to show off? And what if X person sees it and thinks I'm shit and that's it? I'll never get a job in the industry for the next 20 years. There's a lot of weird thoughts that go in your head when you're a younger dude. Like when you're trying to get into the industry, I know you think you're an old boy. It's not that long ago. You can remember what it's like trying to get in. Like you
Oh
fill
no,
your
man, it
head
was
with
hard.
random shit. Whereas now I'm like, I'll just post whatever. I'm like, I posted a piece of art. Oh well, that's not as good as it could be. Fair
I
enough.
think
Probably right.
I think it's harder to break in the industry now because of social media. Because social media, it's a platform where people only post their happy thoughts, you know,
Yeah, the highlight reel.
and then you just see the end result, but you don't see the journey to get there.
Yeah,
So you see me, all big and bad, standing in front of Sunny Santa Monica. So everybody assumes, oh wow, Raul just like he was manifested from the powers of the universe, and then he just stood in front of Sunny Santa Monica. Yeah, no, that's not how it works, man. I spent many hours at night on Saturdays, Sundays, Fridays, every day of the week, man, while all my friends were out there kicking it, girlfriends got mad at me, people got mad at me. I sacrificed a lot to get where
yeah.
I am. But at the same time, it paid off because now, I'm all over the place. So, cool. So it, social media, I feel like it gives everybody a sense of instant gratification, which is bad because things don't just happen. People have to work for them. I feel like back in the day when I was working on portfolio, there was no social media, there was no Facebook. In fact, people didn't even post stuff on Facebook. Like Facebook was for college mates to be able to find like who was selling their books, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's really what it was. And yeah, man, when I was at night working on my high polys and stuff, I would just give myself a pat on the back and I said, all right, I'm gonna keep working on this and I'll go to sleep. I literally will work on stuff for maybe a week or two, and then maybe I will show it to one of my friends and go, "Hey, dude, what do you think of this?" And then they will tear me apart. And then all that would be done through like a message on Paul account or like a message on Yahoo Messenger,
oh yeah,
whatever we were
God.
using at the time, right? But
Yahoo Messenger, dude. Fuck.
now I feel like maybe you did something, and sure, it's totally fine to be excited about it, and you post it on social media, and then what happens is everybody just gives you like a shit ton of likes.
Yeah.
But somewhere in there, there's going to be that one guy that who's having a bad day who decides to crap on this person. And then what happens is you were probably doing everything good, but because someone decides to be mean or whatever, they completely derailed you and then they make you insecure. You know?
I do disagree though, in a sense of I think it's easier now. Okay, it's yes, you're right from that side of things. Like keeping perspective is way harder now. Like you said, social media, like you're constantly seeing highlight reels of everybody and all that kind of stuff. But with stuff like Discord's out and like a lot more transparency on what you need to do. I like for me when I was starting out, I was kind of wandering through fog. I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea what to do. And bear in mind, and fair point is that I didn't know about Polycount. I didn't use Polycount. But then like this, I see Discords come along, and it's like, oh, you want to learn about this like environment app, right? There's like Dynasty and experience points and 3D fast track. And it's like join
Mhm.
these Discords and post your work and get industry professionals like this. There's hundreds of industry professionals in like these Discords. I remember the first time I started getting into material art, and Ben Wilson like was giving me critique in the Discord, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's Ben Wilson! He's telling me what to do." Oh crap! Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to that guy. It was that, but on like you got lots of that because of there's lots of different Discords. So I think it's like it's easier from a perspective of knowing what to do and finding people to critique your work. But I think keeping perspective it's a lot harder. And I think that's like for everybody. I mean, not just artists, that's just life, right? Like people post their Instagram like, oh look at these amazing holidays I'm going on. And it's like, yeah, again, highlight reels like there's another half to your life you're not showing. And people see that and go, oh god, that person's got a great life. And I'm sat here working. It's like social media can fuck with you a lot. A lot.
Yeah, so I always tell people, be happy for everybody else, but
Yeah.
don't compare yourself to them. Don't try to be like so and so. Like, be inspired by them, but don't try to be like them. If you see someone making cool stuff, like cool environments, like don't aspire to be them. Be yourself,
Yeah.
but be inspired by them, because I did that mistake when I was coming up. I I worked with these dudes back at id Software who were like the shit, man. They were like they were fucking titans of gaming, and I wanted nothing else but to be like them,
Yeah.
you know. But for this one specific guy, I wanted just to be him, like all
Hmm.
the way around. And I poke his head every day, man, to a point where I was literally like starting to go on the right path. But then one day when I came to Sony Santa Monica, I realized that that was baloney, and I should just do my thing. So I just I just started doing my thing,
What was
right?
that? Can you just explain that though? Like, so you've gone from there's this guy you want to be like, you are he's like an idol. You want to work like him. You want to be as good as him. All this sort of stuff. And you said when you got to Santa Monica, you realized that was all baloney. Why?
So
What did you
when I came to
notice?
Sony, well, for one, all the senior guys at Sony are super chill.
Yeah.
They're not trying to show off anybody. But if you ask them nicely, they're gonna show you all the bag of tricks and more, right? And it's pretty cool. So there was this one particular dude, man, my mentor. He was the most relaxed, chillax dude in the whole building, but he is probably one of the best artists on the planet. And he doesn't have social media. No one knows about him. He's only known his name. His name is Paul Cora. He's like the best.
Yeah.
And Paul has been there studying forever, man. And what I learned from Paul though was that you should just do you, man, and you should have fun while you're doing it, and you shouldn't try to be like anyone else, and you should just make the best fucking art you can. Because I asked Paul doesn't play games, and I was like, "Hey, Paul, so how do you know how to hit the bar?" Hey, what do you mean? Are you blind? Just look outside, dude. And I was like, "Oh, okay, right."
True.
Because Paul goes on tracks, mountain tracks. He's like the real creative man. He's like and then I was like, man, okay. So this entire time I had it all wrong, and the moment I stopped stressing about using all the cool programs there are and
Yeah.
all the stuff, all the material balls and all that stuff, I realized it was pointless, man. And I realized that, okay, what do I like? I like this, this, and this. I work on this project, which is the best thing to put this in motion. Ray Harryhausen, man, that's my idol, right? Like if I pray to anyone, it's probably him. And yeah, dude. So I was like, all right, I worked on God of War. I like cool stuff, and I'm just gonna do it, right? I know the tools I have in front of me, and I'm going to use them. Right. Recently, I picked up Houdini, like for the past 2 years. And at first, there was this monumental, steep mountain of shit, man. Why do I even want to go this route?
Yeah.
But I did it, dude. And now Houdini is basically my intern, man. Like he does so much for me. I just go in there and I'm like, yeah, do this, right? So I didn't do that because someone else was doing it. I did it literally because I myself said, you know what? I see the potential here, so let me do it.
Hmm.
So the reason why I use Substance Designer. I didn't do it because I saw all the material balls at GDC or all the shiny bubble texture. I did it because I saw the potential in it, and I said, well, if I sculpt this and I dip it in the magic sauce that I make in Substance, then it should look done in half of the time, right? It's all common sense.
It's, I find people get very. I might actually. I've given a couple of talks on this before. Like, I hate when people get attached to a software, and they treat the software like their pipeline. Like the amount of Pete students who are like they think they have to stay 100% designer. I'm like, designer is your part of your pipeline. It's not the pipeline. I find I get much better results going like Blender into Designer, like doing simulations, whether that's cloth or like rubble, ZBrush
Yeah,
into Designer, leveraging atlases. It's like you get so much better results in a way quicker time doing it like that rather than trying to do everything 100% design. And don't get me wrong, like I get there is a point to it sometimes. Like you are trying to showcase your mastery over the software, but there's so many people I've spoken to in the past who get so focused in on that, like 100% this, 100% that, and it goes all different ways. 100% procedural, 100% handcrafted. I could do everything with trim sheets, and I don't ever need to hand sculpt anything, or I have to hand sculpt everything, and I don't need trim sheets. It's like don't get attached to things, man. Like use the tool that's best for the situation, and you'll have a much better time. I find. I know that's when I've been like when I really haven't produced the best art and I get frustrated is when I'm forcing a square peg into a round hole. I need to use
yeah,
designer. I need to use designer. Even though I could complete this in half an hour if I just used a bit of ZBrush. It's like that's when I find the frustration and the burnout and like the irritation comes in for me as an artist.
yeah. Actually, it's funny you say that, man, because I feel like there's like a million ways of doing things,
Yeah.
and there's also several programs that you can use to do things. And at Sony, we don't have like we have to use Maya because that is where everything
Yeah.
flows through.
Yeah.
We don't have Unreal 4 or anything. And I like that better, honestly, just because you can tweak Maya to do whatever you want it to do. And then there's a little power in that, right? But
With your workflow,
say
yeah.
that say that you use Blender and Blender has whatever cool thing you like. So it's totally fine that you grab it and you take step into Blender, finish it up and bring it back, right? I use Moto for retopology, right? So
Oh
that's
really?
my thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so coming from id, I'm a huge Moto user,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, forgot about that. That's
So
fair.
I use it, and then now what happens though is that little by little I've stopped using it because I'm so much into Maya, and people go, "Oh, Maya's a piece of crap," and I go, "Why?" Because it doesn't do this, and then all it takes is for me to tell them to hold my beer, and then I show them how I would do it, and then they go, "Oh, okay, so it is possible to do it." Sure, it doesn't work like it does in the other program, but at least that saves you those 5 minutes that you have to export stuff back out and then
Yeah,
bring it
yeah.
back. Because when I started using Maya, it was the little things, man. It was the little things that were driving me nuts because I hated that program at first. And then little by little, I just made it into my own. I've written so many scripts for it and made like a million hotkeys for it. Like, not exaggerating. And then, like, no, I don't
Well,
have a million hotkeys, but yeah. So sometimes it's easy to take things into ZBrush and just flesh them out and then bring it back into Maya and then boolean them and whatever and take them back in. Other people do it another way. Other people maybe use Blender. I use whatever I need to use to get the prop in the game and looking sweet. At no one point am I like preaching that everybody should use this one program because I don't think that's how it should be.
yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree. It's actually I was thinking about this with like my like I've my whole career has been Unreal Engine, I think. Bar like a couple of proprietary engines in studios. Like it's always been Unreal Engine. And when I first heard about like, yourselves and I think Naughty Dog do the same, they use Maya as their like kind of their interface for the artists who with the PlayStation. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like hell. I'm like, oh god, Unreal Engine. What about like all that cool stuff that comes with that? And then I was looking at some of your workflows and like for example, skirt meshing. I was like, okay, if I was to do that in Unreal Engine, that would be a fucking nightmare because I'd have to like mesh out an area with like props, export all them props back into the modeling package, model the skirt in, then export back it, and it's this horrible back and forth. As I guess with it, Maya, I was like, okay, I've got these props crashed together, cool. I need some skirt there. Cool, I'll just model it. Like you're already in a modeling package. It's
Yeah.
I'm seeing the power to it, like from that perspective.
Yeah, when I started working at Sony, I was trying really hard to figure out how to make a Maya Unreal 4 material so that the OpenGL material from Unreal 4 can show up in Maya.
Yeah.
And I learned that to do that, I needed a degree from MIT and all these things, so I kind of gave up.
Leave it to smart
But
people, the tech artists, dude. They are magicians.
basically, so I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. So there's things I can't do, so I just don't try it. And because what happens is at Sony, we have that, we see everything in the Maya viewport. It looks bad in the Maya viewport
Yeah.
because it doesn't look as amazing as it looks in the screenshots that you see in game because it's
Hmm.
just a preview.
Yeah.
But you do see the entire environment. And if at any point you want to break something, you just make it local and you break it. Like if you want to make a shell out of it to put a decal on it, you do that. You just do whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, if you do an ice, for example, you will make all your meshes local and take that shit into ZBrush, and then you will remesh them together to get a big shell of all your meshes,
Hmm.
and you will bring back a big old giant shrink wrap tool, and then you do whatever you want to do, right? So there's like a million way of doing things, right?
It's
So
quite interesting. Man, when you first started talking about that, I was like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" Like, oh shit! Oh shit! That's not bad. That's actually pretty interesting.
so
Ah,
yeah, you can do anything. Just the sky's the limit, man. You know.
huh?
Now you're like, what?
No, yeah, no. I'm like, oh shit! That's good. I like it. I like it. Basically, I'm gonna steal that idea and I'm gonna use it. Like that's fucking cool. That's a really interesting way of doing something. Um, Bro, dude, this has been one of the fastest hours I've had in a long, long time. It's been an
That's a good
absolute.
thing.
That's no, dude. It's great. I think I'm gonna have to get you back on because I think there's a lot we could talk about. I think we could talk for hours. Um, what I will say though is, a fact, and I say this to all of you guys, because I know this is your lunch break you're taking out to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And there's a lot of really great information in here. I think people are going to really benefit from, especially hearing it from you. It's kind of coming out of the horse's mouth, all this sort of stuff. Um, it's gonna help a lot of people. Um, what we'll say, everyone who's listening, please remember to do the whole thing: like, follow, share, subscribe. Because the more the podcast is shared around, the more people to get to hear the fantastic information people like Raul have to share. But man, again, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Catch you next week, guys.